I traveled 5,000 kilometers just to see my daughter after 10 years, and the first words she said were, "You don't belong here." The plane landed with a low rumble. Engines sighed as if they too carried the weight of my journey. I stepped onto the tarmac, suitcase in hand, New York winter air sharp against my face. Every nerve in my body was awake, my mind racing, my heart pounding. New York, the city that never sleeps. Skyscrapers slicing the clouds, traffic honking endlessly, people moving faster than the wind. And yet, none of it mattered. All I could think about was Ashley. 10 years. 10 long years of missed birthdays, unanswered calls, and letters left unopened. 10 years of imagining this reunion, the moment I would finally see her face, hear her voice, feel her warmth again. And now, here I was. The cab wound through crowded streets. Steam hissed from manholes, the smell of roasted chestnuts mixing with exhaust fumes. I could feel the vibrations of the city under the tires. But my mind drifted. I saw her as a little girl, toddling across the sidewalk in San Francisco, scraped knees and all, her tiny hands gripping mine tightly. I remember the first time she rode a bike without training wheels, the look of triumph on her face as she wobbled down the street, and the tears I wiped away when she fell. I remember the nights I stayed awake helping with homework I didn't understand, long after I'd worked 2 jobs just to pay for her piano lessons. Her little victories were my victories. Her pain was my pain. And every sacrifice I made, I did without complaint, silently, out of love. And now, would she even remember me? Before we go any further, hit that subscribe button like Ashley slammed the door in my face. Fast, hard, and with zero mercy. But trust me, this time, it actually worked in your favor. The cab stopped in front of a glossy, modern building. Lights glowed through the windows of her apartment, warm and inviting. Music drifted faintly, laughter bouncing off the walls. Everything screamed success, independence, luxury. I adjusted my coat, clutched my suitcase tighter, and walked to the door. Every step felt heavier than the last, weighed down by hope, fear, and 10 years of longing. I knocked softly at first, then a little louder. My heart beat in my throat. 10 years of imagining this moment. 10 years of preparing for her embrace, and 10 years of anticipating rejection. The door swung open. Ashley, taller than I remembered, her posture perfect, confidence radiating from every movement. Her hair glimmered under the hallway light. She smiled, but it was not a smile for me. Polite, distant, cold. "Ashley, it's me, Dad," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes narrowed, sharp and cold. "You don't belong here." And the door slammed. I froze, knuckles white, suitcase at my feet. The world blurred. People moved around me, oblivious to the old man with shattered heart. My breath caught in my throat. The words echoed. "You don't belong here." Memories hit me like waves. The night she cried in my arms when she was sick, fever burning hot against my chest. Every tuition check, apartment deposit, college application I had worked double shift to afford. Watching her graduate, proud tears in my eyes, ignore when she flaunted her independence. All my sacrifices, all my love, gone in a single cold sentence. I sank onto a bench across the street, pressed against the cold metal. City lights blurred through my tears. Traffic honked endlessly. People laughed and argued, hustling to somewhere important, oblivious to me. And yet, for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. Not happy, not relieved, alive. Anger simmered beneath the heartbreak. Hurt twisted into determination. "She thinks she's untouchable," I whispered. "She has no idea who built the foundation she's standing on." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched. Every laugh. Every glance she gave to her friends. Every sip of wine. Every casual brush of her hand across her husband's shoulder. It all told me she was thriving in a life she thought she had built herself. Details caught my eye. Expensive shoes glinting under the lights. Sparkling glasses on her table. The aroma of wine and food. Warm apartment, cozy lighting, laughter echoing. Everything seemed perfect. Too perfect. And yet, something didn't feel right. I remember the whispers of old neighbors back in San Francisco. She's so sure she's independent. But has she ever really stood on her own? A spark ignited inside me. Not vengeance, not yet. Just a quiet thought. Maybe she needed to see what she had lost and who had given it to her. I stayed on that bench long after the cab drove away. Winter air filled my lungs, sharp and cold. I watched her through the window, laughter echoing, music playing softly, friends gathered around. Little does she know, the story isn't over. The door she slammed, that's just the beginning. My fists clenched, my heart ached, and a faint, quiet smile formed on my lips. She has no idea what's coming. No idea at all. She laughed with her friends, completely unaware that the man who built her world was sitting quietly just outside. I stayed on the bench across the street long after the door slammed. The city had shifted into its evening rhythm. Lights glowing brighter, taxis honking in endless streams, people rushing to their apartments, dinners, dates, and meetings. I watched her apartment, the faint glow spilling from the windows. Ashley was inside. Laughter bounced off the walls. Glasses clinked. Music played softly. Friends leaned in close, whispering jokes and secrets. Her husband poured wine into crystal glasses, smiling as Ashley playfully flicked her hand at him. Perfect. Too perfect. And yet, something in me noticed tiny inconsistencies. A faint glance she gave her phone, eyes tightening when someone called her name. A brief hesitation before she laughed at a joke she didn't quite get. Small, almost invisible cracks. I remembered how she used to be as a little girl. Curious, bright-eyed, always asking questions, sometimes stubborn, sometimes sweet. But now, she carried herself like a queen in her own kingdom, convinced she had built it all by herself. Confidence, yes. Arrogance? Absolutely. I needed to see more, to understand her life, not just to grieve or feel anger, but to observe, to plan, to wait. Patience would be my weapon. I walked slowly around the building, pretending to check my phone, hiding behind lampposts, noticing details. The kind of car parked in the lot. Expensive, sleek, clearly a status symbol. Neighbors nodding politely, giving her space, aware of her seemingly flawless life. Packages being delivered, boxes labeled with high-end brands, new gadgets, designer items. Her life was luxurious. Yes, but I noticed her tension. A forced smile here, a too loud laugh there. Small signs that not everything was as smooth as it seemed. I thought back to her childhood again. The nights I stayed awake, soothing her nightmares. Skipping sleep, skipping meals, working double shifts to make sure she never wanted for anything. Every piano lesson, every tuition payment, every careful plan I made to give her the life she deserved. And now, she lived a life that seemed perfect, but perfect in appearance only. I noticed Ashley arguing quietly with her husband. The words were muffled, but the tension was obvious. She rolled her eyes at something he said, and he didn't respond with laughter or patience, just a subtle shift of the shoulders, almost offensive. A tiny part of me smiled, not out of cruelty, but because perfection often hides flaws, and flaws are seeds waiting to grow. I took mental notes. This wasn't revenge yet. This was reconnaissance, understanding her world, watching the cracks in the foundation, because every empire has one. Every crown tilts if pressed the right way. Patience, I whispered to myself. Observe, learn, wait. The world she sees isn't all there is. And soon she'll realize that. I remembered how she had rejected me. The door slammed in my face, shutting out 10 years of love. That sting, it had been sharp, painful, but now it was fuel, fire beneath ice. I would not confront her with anger. I would make her see, make her understand, slowly, cleverly. And the best part? She had no idea I was even here. I watched her for hours, friends praising her, whispering about her achievements, a casual joke about money, and she laughed a little too loudly. Her husband checking his phone constantly, small sighs escaping, a glance that spoke volumes she didn't notice. Her perfect life, maybe it wasn't as perfect as it seemed. A thought crossed my mind. Perfection is fragile. One nudge and it all wobbles. and I would be that nudge. Not cruelly, not violently, but in a way that would make her reflect. Make her feel what it's like to ignore love and sacrifice. The city grew darker, lights flickering like stars against the skyscrapers. I stayed in the shadows, a silent observer, absorbing every detail. I thought about knocking, confronting her. But no, that would be pointless. She wouldn't understand then. She needed to see, to learn, slowly, cleverly. My plan was forming, piece by piece. Each observation, each small detail, was a brick in the structure of what I would do. And I had time, patience, and history on my side. As I turned to leave, I noticed something I hadn't expected. Her husband looking out the window, uneasy, almost worried. Something wasn't right. A tiny tremor in the otherwise flawless world Ashley had built. This is just the beginning. I whispered to the night. The life she flaunts so proudly is far from untouchable. And soon, she'll see it for herself. Will my quiet observation turn into action? Will Ashley notice the cracks in her perfect life? Stay tuned, because the next episode dives deeper into my clever plan and the first hints of subtle revenge unfold.